Welcome back to New Rockstars. I'm Erik Voss, and Moon Knight trapped Marc, Spector, and Steven Grant in an Egyptian-themed hospital psych ward filled with parallels to their waking life. And the more we rewatch this scene, the more we realize that everything we see, like in Willy Wonka's factory, are delicious Easter eggs from earlier episodes. And also like Willy Wonka's factory, it's all a creepy death trap.
It just is kind of strange.
Yeah, strange, Charlie, but it's fun.
So I'm gonna reanalyze this sequence to break down all the new stuff that we found. And by the way, we still have a few remaining Moon Knight inspired Tomb of the Moon God shirts available at newrockstarsmerch.com. Be sure to grab one before they run out. So episode 4 is titled The Tomb, referring to the lost tomb of Alexander the Great, where Steven finds Ametsushapti, but it may also describe what Marc and Steven's hospital reality is, at least for the purposes of this story. Like, you could certainly interpret Marc and Steven's whole journey of this series as a voyage through the Duat, the underworld, through the field of reeds, and that now, upon Marc getting shot, he descends into the place where the Ennead entombed deities like Amet, Khonshu, and Tuaret. However, the way people entombed in sarcophagi in this hospital don't stay entombed, this could lead to a Tuaret-assisted rebirth. Marc first enters this realm after getting shot in the chest, falling backward into shallow water, but then descending into much deeper water. The bullet hole's now vanished, but the frame inverts so that it looks like he's actually ascending upward. And then we find ourselves in the low-budget Tomb Buster movie, where Dr. Steven Grant more so resembles Arthur Harrow with similar hair and the use of a compass. And like in Raiders of the Lost Ark, they find the remains of a past colleague, and then they focus on the statue of the Aztec moon deity Coyolxauhqui. Its bust split into several faces like the statue of Marc in the closing credits. Crawley shows up here holding out his hat, the way his hat was always at his feet for tips. And I pointed out before how the bingo numbers that he calls out, plus the ones that are stamped on Marc's card, most of these are not accurate bingo numbers. Since B numbers are 1 through 15, etc., for the rest of the numbers, you would not have a B22 or a B83, you'd only have as high as B15. He also says T16, and there is no T in bingo. But clearly these are inaccurate by design. It's a reflection of how everything we see in this hospital is meant to be surreal. I'm actually more interested in what Crawley says if you listen closely.
Come on everyone, don't fall asleep on me now, it's just getting good.
Don't fall asleep. Another parallel to Steven's fears of drifting out of consciousness and his difficulty distinguishing between his waking life and dreams. Then we see a man playing with a Rubik's Cube, nearly finishing the white side, as we saw in Steven's flat. Then there's a woman who looks a lot like Dylan sitting behind that guy. Now, Dylan's name might even come from how Harrow's cult listens to Bob Dylan's Every Grain of Sand. The orderly Bobby has jello the same colors as the powder bowl Steven found in the mummification room. Now, Bobby and Billy, who is the guy pushing us in the wheelchair currently, were of course the directives Fitzgerald and Kennedy, those names being kind of silly, as the middle and last name of John Fitzgerald Kennedy, US President, and Bobby and Billy are the names of the orderlies in the Jeff Lemire comics. Donna shows up holding the plush scarab that we saw in the museum gift shop in episode 1. She says,
Be a bit happier if he called some bloody O's.
Now, we know from Marc's card that Crawley has already called 067, 055, and 011, and soon we'll say 047 and 073. So Crawley has called plenty of bloody O's. Now, the clock on the wall has a hand in the shape of Khonshu's staff with a crescent moon at the end, and despite us hearing ticking throughout all of this, the second hand never actually moves.
G15. Anyone have a G15?
Then, of course, the cart of cupcakes, just like the Von Derelman van from episode 1. Now, I love this. The schedule on the dry erase board includes a daily zoo visit. Again, not something mental patients would actually be allowed to do, but perhaps a nod to the animalistic deities that are also being kept in this facility. There is a gardener, like the one in Harrow's compound in episode 2. Then there's this woman whom some are asking if she might be the forger from episode 3, but she is not. It's a different actress. But this woman sketches a hummingbird, just like the one in the episode 2 nature footage. This hummingbird has Khonshu's skull head. Now, then on the whiteboard are other photos of foreign locales, just like the postcards Steven has been receiving. But the crazier detail, those abstract drawings pinned to the board are actually the same murals on the walls of Harrow's compound in episode 2. Now, I have talked about Gus's fishbowl, except there is no water in this bowl. He's just suspended, frozen. And when you look at the stacks of those books, it includes Royal Necropolis and Black Pharaohs. That second one, perhaps another clue clue pointing to Pharaoh Rama Tut, who might be Jonathan Majors. And I know you might say, well, the pharaohs were all Egyptian. No, there actually is a history of darker skinned pharaohs in Egyptian history, and Jonathan Majors could have just snuck in that history. And there was that Kang Easter egg that we confirmed on the back of that kid's jacket. But also, there is a book with S. Campanelli, episode 6. Episode 6 on a book? This looks like a nod to Stephen Campanelli, a cameraman known for his Steadicam work and longtime collaborator with Clint Eastwood. Maybe episode 6 of this series will be shot by Stephen Campanelli, or it might use his Steadicam style. Now, you've probably noticed that New Rockstars is growing. We've introduced new hosts, new show formats, and the volume of videos we make every week is higher than ever. And we've got a new show starting next week that we think you're going to love. The Breakroom is a daily live show broadcasting from our actual break room at New Rockstars HQ in Southern California every weekday afternoon. It'll be covering all the nerd news from the day, reacting to the latest releases, previewing videos you're gonna see on this channel, hosting some special guests, and most important, interacting with you, the viewers. This live stream show will feature some familiar New Rockstars faces: Tommy Bechtold, Jessica Clemens, producer Brandon, and you may even see MT, Whitney, me, or even Villa Molina on there every once in a while. Now, this will not be replacing any of the content you love on New Rockstars. It's gonna be extra new content in a new format on the channel. The break room being live is gonna let the hosts interact with you in real time, reacting to your theories, disagreeing with your hot takes, and sharing in the joy of geeking out over our favorite properties. So join New Rockstars live in the break room every weekday here on YouTube. And if you miss seeing the show live, don't worry, you'll be able to catch the replays right here on the channel. So Layla appears eating the same sweet that she ate in episode 3 from The Forger, and we pointed out how she has that bandage with the Scarlet Scarab on it, a nod to her possible lineage as the Scarlet Scarab, the Egyptian protector fighting against the invaders in the Marvel comics. And an even crazier detail is if you look closely at Layla's hands earlier in the episode, like when she's clutching the edge of the cliff while fighting the Heka priest, that same pinky finger already has a band-aid on it. Mark falls on his face due to the foot harness, just as he does from his bed in episode 2, and falling on the same side of his face as he did in the Alps in episode 1. And he has this Moon Knight action figure, which some are asking if this could be a Skeletor action figure. It's not. The arms, the torso, the feet, they are all different. Despite Skeletor being hooded, this hood actually looks like it was added on top of another action figure and the whole thing painted over white. Regardless, it is weird that there is a Moon Knight action figure at all. Considering in the MCU, Moon Knight is not really a known branded entity. But my favorite new detail is in Harrow's office. This whole set with its tall ceilings, its columns, its brick arches, folks, this is the same attic room in Harrow's compound from episode 2 when Steven and Layla fled the Jackal. They used the same set and they painted over it white. Then of course there's a painting of the Alpine Village from episode 1. The VHS tape of Tombbuster has the tagline, "When deeper in here, Stephen Grant has no fear." And then Dr. Harrow taps his pen on his glasses, evoking the pen-clicking analyst in the Jeff Lemire comics. Harrow quotes the villain from the Tombbuster movie.
"No tree can ascend to the light of heaven if it doesn't descend to the depths of hell."
Which is a paraphrase from a quote the psychoanalyst and philosopher Carl Jung spoke about enlightenment being a product of confronting one's inner demons. Harrow then unfolds a handkerchief that looks a lot like his headscarf in episode 2, but it might be a different part of the stitching than what we see. A housefly lands on Steven's hand, which feels like a Psycho reference, but also might reflect Mark's corpse status, connecting to Crawley's other line.
I can smell it. We're close to a winner.
Also nearby are more canopic jars, the same ones in the mummification process used by the Heka priest. Now, as Mark flees down the hallway, the imagery matches the shots in the credits of the storage facility when it switches to the hospital, and the lamps swing back and forth. These are actually the same lamps from Mark's hotel at the end of episode 2, but listen closely here. Creaking sound and the way this hallway tilts just seems like we could be within an old wooden ship, which brings us back to this episode being titled The Tomb. We know this season will later feature a large Egyptian vessel through a purple desert landscape. All of this could be Mark and Steven's temporary entombing in a metaphorical sarcophagus on this vessel as they complete the voyage through the field of reeds. And like all Egyptian sarcophagi, an ornately decorated tomb, one designed to be the ultimate test for this soul as it faces its judgment. And ultimately, I think rather than this being a transition into the permanent afterlife, I really think Tawaret was presented at the end of this episode as a sign of hope, because as the goddess of protection, fertility, and rebirth, Tawaret could be their guide to resurrection. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter at EA Voss. Follow New Rockstars. Subscribe to New Rockstars for more analysis of everything you love. Thanks for watching. Bye.